I am Deputy Director in something that's called the Office of Development Partners in the U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID administers our foreign assistance programs. And the Office of Development Partners was actually set up at the suggestion of the last administrator under the previous administration, but to really focus and direct our outreach to outside partners. Amir spoke about the fact that we've been working with private sector partners, both corporate and non-governmental, for some time through our assistance programs. We don't just work government to government. But sometimes the way that we have done that outreach has not always been perhaps as intentional as it ought to be in terms of really trying to discern what are the interests of the US government, what are we actually trying to achieve, and how do we find the best partners and attain the best partnerships to make our assistance the most effective. One thing that we have done specifically, which I think is very germane to the discussion here at this conference, is we set up something called the Global Development Commons. And again, the administrator was quite instrumental in putting that together. The concept of it being initially for it to be just a general marketplace of ideas in development and to regain US leadership on the development stage. But we've actually tried to push it a step further, and we're trying to really look at open innovation opportunities inside the agency as well as outside the agency. We're still at a pretty basic level compared to some of you here in terms of the things that we have done. But we launched an open competition, the first really open global competition of its kind in USAID last fall. It's called the Development 2.0 Challenge. And we announced the winners of that challenge in January at a session at the museum in Washington on Pennsylvania Avenue. It was a very interesting process for those of us internally. For one thing, we did not have an easy way of doing a challenge, and that goes to some of the things that Tom Khalil was talking about the barriers within the government. But I think one thing we did very well was we had an iterative process which allowed participants through the net to comment on the existing proposals and to continue offering improvements on those proposals right up until the final submission date. And that meant that, the submissions were able to be continually improved on and continually upgraded until the final submission process. In the end, we had one winner and two finalists in the area using, this was mobile phone based, I should have specified, mobile phone technologies in the service of development was the premise for it. And we wound up with one winning proposal, which was on the use of mobile phone technology to transmit nutrition information. You know, the significant distance, even short distances are significant in the developing world. And the ability to transmit nutrition data from a village to the Ministry of Health was huge. Avoiding having to use the snail mail option in a developing country, that's always a very positive development. We also had one semifinalist using mobile phone technology to report on crisis situations. It was first used after the Kenyan elections, and that was called the USAID project. And then Quick Diagnostics, which was using video mobile technology for diagnosing health problems. So we were very, very excited by all of these proposals. But we're hoping to launch another challenge this coming year. And indeed, one of the challenges, I think, is to find a way to actually reach the developing country participants more effectively. Whether we're able to do that through the upcoming challenge, or maybe it'll be a little bit further down the road. But the winners of our challenge this year were largely universities. Some they were a little bit outside our usual partners, but they weren't actually based in coming out of the developing countries themselves. They weren't like village-based solutions, the kinds of things you would really, really like to be able to reach, and I hope that we'll be able to do that down the road. I'll stop there.
That's great. I mean, taking that point about reaching out to the people in the developing world, I mean, are there people who are looking to help you with this? I mean, could there be in the audience people here who could help you do that? How are you going to reach out?
Well, I hope so. For one thing, I think we're interested in looking at what some of the other opportunities might be. Mobile phone technologies have obviously been a very popular kind of challenge, precisely because mobile phones are becoming so widespread in the developing world, and they're a way of reaching people who don't necessarily have computers or aren't easy to reach other ways. So that's a very promising opportunity. But perhaps there are others, and I certainly would welcome ideas that might come from this group about social innovation and participation kinds of opportunities that we might be able to put in place. USAID is a very decentralized entity, and we really do try very much to reach out, but I think our much more wired world allows us possibilities of reaching the individuals that we really haven't had in the past. We've kind of stopped at groups, and maybe we can get a little bit further and actually get the direct input. So I hope there will be some ideas you might be able to offer in that regard.